It's time for MacBreak Weekly, episode 202. Ray Maxwell joins the gang as we talk about iPhone antenna problems, Steve Jobs emails, and some great MacBreak picks. It's all coming up with MacBreak Weekly next.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust. This is Twit.
Bandwidth for MacBreak Weekly is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 202, recorded July 6th, 2010. The bars are a lie. MacBreak Weekly is brought to you by Audible.com. To download a free audiobook of your choice, go to audible.com/MacBreak. And by Drobo, the original S, Pro, and the new Drobo Elite, offering expandable storage products for individuals, small businesses, and creative teams. For more information and instant rebates, visit drobo.com/MacBreak. And by Squarespace.com, the fast and easy way to publish a high-quality website or blog. For a free trial and 10% off your new account, go to squarespace.com/MacBreak. It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the show that covers everything to do with the Macintosh, iPhone, iPod, the entire Apple universe. In studio with me, the universal Alex Lindsay of the Pixel Corps, pixelcorps.com, that great guild of 3D artists. It's nice. My phone decides to ring right at that moment. So it's for you, Alex.
Thank you very much. I had a lot of fun yesterday. I learned a lot about speed rail.
Speed rail. That's what Kelly was putting in here.
That's all this stuff here is.
We'll talk about that in a second, yeah, because we've got a new studio lighting grid. But first, let me say hello to Mr. Ray Maxwell.
Hi, Leo. How are you doing?
Erstwhile host of Maxwell's House from Vancouver, British Columbia, color scientist, photographer, Photoshop wizard, and I hope a regular on MacBreak Weekly going forward because Ray is so smart. It's good to have you. Thank you, Ray. And Alex Lindsay is also... Wait a minute. Alex Lindsay is also here. Hey, Alex. Andy Ihnatko is also here. The sideburns, I should have known.
No, that's okay. With all the heat waves here, it's causing distortion, ripple distortion. It's really hard to see, really hard to hear, really hard to think. But hey,
from the Chicago Sun-Times and the Celestial Waste of Bandwidth, is it really hot in New England right now?
I have been keeping an eye on weatherunderground.com. It has not been below 100 degrees in the past 2 hours. The highest that I have screenshotted was 104.5.
Holy moly! And with humidity.
Station,
yeah, 104.5. Yeah. That's my favorite rock and roll station.
I swear to God, like up until like 45 minutes ago, I'm like, unfortunately, I only have like one room in my house that's air conditioned because usually we only get like a few days of really, really bad heat in the summer. And I'm like, how difficult would it be to get the microphone or the camera in right there into the bedroom and just like do it Hugh Hefner style? Because I don't want to be in a non-air conditioned office for 2 hours.
Oh man. Well, I'm sorry.
A soldier.
You are a soldier.
I'm a Marine, except for without the courage and the ability to deal with the training and take orders from people.
Well, that's close enough. For MacBreak Weekly, fine. So since the last time we gathered, Apple has put out a note about the antenna issue on the iPhone. We did a great twit. If you want to hear, we had Spencer Webb from AntennaSys.com. He's a RF engineer and an expert in antenna design. Come on. He's a guy who wrote the blog post that said, hey, all phones have this problem to a greater or lesser extent. But everybody has observed, of course, by now you know that if you hold the iPhone in your left hand... Now, he said it's not bridging that piece of plastic. It's merely the thickness of your hand attenuating the antenna. He said the farther you can get your hand away from that antenna, the better. So Alex Lindsay is demonstrating the proper grip right now, the Vulcan... three-fingered death grip. Or, you see what I did? I hate to do it because the iPhone 4 is such a beautiful design, but I put a case on it, and that seems to have solved it. But here's an interesting point, and then we'll get to Apple's letter. When I went to the AT&T store, they said, yeah, we know, but are you dropping more calls? And I had to say, well, first of all, I don't use a phone that much, but no, I guess I'm not.
Well, first of all, my whole thing is there's a 30. People get upset about it. There's a 30-day return policy. If this is really a problem for you, you can take it back. You don't need to throw a tantrum about it. I mean, you can take the camera, take the whole thing back. I don't think many people will because I don't think they care. I think that the primary thing about iPhone users and every person that I talk to that uses an iPhone, that's still using an iPhone, is that they want a computer that also makes phone calls, so they don't have to carry another phone around.
You're saying the phone calls are secondary.
They're secondary, and the other thing is I have all kinds of call problems with my 3G, which I haven't received my 4.0 yet. I'm playing with Leos at the moment. If I put it in my house, if I put it in my pants pocket, I know that I'll drop calls. If I put it in my chest pocket, I know I won't.
You have to admit, though, it's a public relations blow because of all the problems with AT&T all along. It's interesting because a 4th of July weekend was talking to normal people. Everybody knows about this problem. This is they saw the iPhone 4 and they said, "Oh, how's the antenna?" It's like everybody's become an RF engineer overnight.
The thing that I think is interesting is that you could take this the other way. We were talking about this a little bit yesterday. Is that someone ought to make a case. Mophie ought to make some kind of case that actually adds to your antenna. Because the antenna is exposed, you could actually have a case that pushed up against it and coiled up more antenna or gave you an extendable antenna. Right. You could fix all kinds of problems.
Here's what Spencer Webb said, the antenna guy. He said it's not bridging, it's not shorting it out or anything. It's just merely blocking it. And he says the greater the distance between your hand and the left side there, the less attenuation there'll be. And even this case, which is just a plastic case, which is maybe 10 millimeters a difference, makes enough of a difference that I don't see as much attenuation on the antenna. And again, I don't drop calls. Apple says you'll drop calls in weak areas. So in fact, frankly, well, first of all, Ray, do you have anything to add to this? Because I think this is kind of something that you know a little bit about, I would imagine.
Yeah, I years in mobile data, and they were bought out by Motorola eventually, but we pioneered data communications, RF data communications.
So you know something about this.
Yeah, and first of all, let me say that, now this is my best guess, because I haven't opened up an iPhone 4 because they're not available in Canada yet, coming soon on the website. But the bars are probably an indication or signal-to-noise ratio rather than signal. And essentially, I'll try and put this in a nutshell. When you do digital communications over an RF channel, you have to encode with some kind of redundant code that you can do what's called forward error correcting. In other words, if you lose some of the bits through the RF channel, you can reconstruct the message at the other end as long as you don't lose too many bits. And the measurement of that is bit error rate, they call it, BER. And anyway, what is happening here is when the bit error rate gets to a certain level, this code, which by the way is usually a Reed-Solomon code, allows forward error correcting. In other words, if some of the bits are dropped as they go through the channel, it can put them back together and extract the message. And if enough of them are dropped, suddenly it just quits. That's why with this kind of communication, if the bit error rate gets too high and the Reed-Solomon code can't recover the data, then bang, you just lose the channel.
So what you're saying is, and we've known this, if it's digital, it either works or it doesn't work. There's redundancy built in so that it can recover from some digital flaws, but at some point it just dies.
That's right.
And the question is, how much does this have to do with the number of bars?
Right. Well, that just depends on how you what you do with measure. You measure the bit error rate by listening to the particular cell that has been chosen for you, and it's sending out packets all the time. And there's a CRC or some kind of error checking code at the end of every packet. And by the way, that's why it takes time for the bars to change. Is it has to listen to a number of packets before it can calculate an accurate bit error rate.
Oh, that's interesting. So it's actually looking at the data. A non-tech had a great article on this. In fact, the first...
I think this is actually, I was looking at the diagram, and I think this is actually the proper way to hold it.
Yeah. Of course, neither Steve Jobs nor any of the Apple ads, they hold it properly.
Is that right? No, wait. Or is it like this? No, it's like this.
Okay, stop it. You're supposed to do the three-fingered Vulcan dance.
This would work actually really well.
It would work
the entire
really
thing
well.
would be exposed.
No attenuation. In fact, somebody has an iHand. It's an accessory that goes with the iPhone. It's like a mannequin hand that you hold, that holds your phone.
You know what I think is interesting is I don't actually, I realized I was thinking about this. I have my headphone in all the time. In California, you're not allowed to drive.
Right.
And so I just have my headphone in all the time. It's always in my pocket. So
yeah, most of the time when I'm on the iPhone, and the reason I don't drop as many calls, I guess, is because it's on the Ford Sync, and I don't. You're right. Yeah. So, but this is the this. I thought AnonTech did a brilliant job, and by the way, Spencer Webb agreed. If you want to read probably the best discussion of this, they actually jailbroke the iPhone so that they could see a percent. You know, they took out the maintenance mode that let you see the actual antenna reception. Apple did in iOS 4, which is even more suspicious. You know, not only do they kind of fudge the bars, but now they take out this maintenance mode that you used to be able to dial in. So they're showing actual numbers instead of bars here. Essentially, they come to the same solution. If you cup it tightly, you're gonna lose signal, but it's still better, and this is the important thing, than any iPhone previously. So here's signal attenuation. The lower the number is better. And on the iPhone 4, if you cup it tightly, you get 24.6 dB signal attenuation compared to, say, 17.7 on a Nexus 1 or 14.3 on a 3GS. You get this shows all the attenuation. However, they also point out the antenna is better. So yes, your signal goes down. You shouldn't drop as many calls, according to AnonTech. But Apple has handled this so poorly that I think it's really a black mark against them. This letter that they published saying, we were shocked to learn that we had been calculating the bars incorrectly and giving you more bars than you were really getting. Well, obviously they did that on purpose for years on the first 3 iPhones, so it would look like it was doing a better job than it does, right?
Or they were just calculating it that way, you know. And they
come on!
No, I mean, I'm just saying.
Oh, come on!
I was surprised. I have to admit, the first thing that I saw when people were complaining about their bars dropping, the first thing that I said, if it was my company, I would just say we've done an update that fixes this, you know, whatever.
Well,
and then
they
it just
did.
Wouldn't happen.
They did, and then they explained that the update merely makes the bars bigger, and shows fewer bars than it used to show. So I guess the point being, you'll know you're in a bad signal area. And before, they were hiding that. Andy, you had something to say about this?
No, all I was going to say is that we really don't know what's going on here. I mean, Apple messed it up by speaking when they didn't know what they should really be telling people, and not giving people a complete solution. All I was going to say is that it would be a very, very big deal if they intentionally said, I know that every iPhone we've done has had really bad signal reception, but we're going to kite up the number of bars just to make ourselves look good. That's significantly, you know, legally bad.
Is that not kind of what they admitted, though?
Well, there's a difference between that being like a legitimate mistake and saying, you know what, I think that we're aware of this. We want to do it this way because it makes our phone look good. That's I think Apple really screwed this thing up, but I'm willing to stop short of saying that they knew about the signal. They knew about the extra bars that's been present apparently for the past 3 years without ever telling anybody about it.
John Gruber has a great post on daringfireball.net. He posted this on Friday. Translation from Apple's unique dialect of PR speak to English of the letter from Apple. So the first paragraph, the iPhone 4 has been the most successful product launch in Apple's history, blah, 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 blah. We were surprised when we read reports of reception problems. We immediately began investigating them. Here's what we have learned. John says, translated, we cannot believe we had to write this effing letter. To start with, gripping almost any mobile phone in certain ways will reduce its reception. This is true of all phones. We cannot believe we're getting crap for this. But some users have reported that iPhone can drop 4 or 5 bars when held tightly in a way which covers the black strip. So he goes on, we've discovered the cause of this dramatic drop in bars, and it's both simple and surprising. Gruber's translation, we're going to blame AT&T. Upon investigation, we were stunned. This is the word I love. Stunned to find the formula we use to calculate how many bars of signals of strength to display is totally wrong. So you're right, Andy. They're not admitting that they did it on purpose, but come on, that's the logical conclusion.
The stunned was a bit much.
Are you suggesting that, what do you mean by did it on purpose? Are you suggesting that they've been intentionally falsifying the number of bars?
They used a formula to calculate it that showed more bars than it should have because it made the phone look better than it was for 3 phones. You don't think so?
If it depends on how you put it. If you put it that they had 3 different methods, X number of different methods of calculating the signal strength, each of which had equal validity, and one of them showed more bars than any other. And of course, they chose the one that showed off the iPhone to its best.
No, they don't say it was equally valid. Our formula, in many instances, mistakenly displays 2 more bars than it should for a given signal strength.
I'm saying that if you my only disconnect here, my only problem here is with the suggestion that Apple committed a knowing fraud on the performance of its iPhone. I don't think there's enough evidence to really say they did that.
Well, you're right. We can't say it for sure.
Just like, again, if there are 3 independently published methods for calculating my top speed on running, and there are 3, like, International Olympic Committee, Canadian Olympic Committee, U.S. Olympic Committee, 3 different ways of calculating it, and the Canadian method puts my top speed at 5% running faster than anybody else, I'm going to promote myself as using that standard than anything else. I think that's what Apple was doing.
Gruber writes, this is Gruber's translation. We decided from the outset to set the formula for our bars of signal strength indicator to make the iPhone look good and to make it look as if it gets more bars. That decision has now bitten us on our ass. I mean, you're right. We can't know, Andy, if they did it on purpose, but they clearly chose to calculate it in a way that was reflected better on the phone than it ought to have. And now they're saying we're going to use AT&T. And by the way, this word is important. To fix this, we are adopting AT&T's recently, that's the important word, recommended formula for calculating how many bars to display. So the implication is, this is new. The way we're going to do this is new, and we were doing it wrong, but that's only because we were working on imperfect information. What you're saying, Andy. And I agree that that's one interpretation, but to me, and I guarantee you to the rest of the world, it looks like Apple was lying.
Well, it just looks messy. I mean, I think I agree with Andy that the biggest problem is that they shouldn't have said anything until they figured out what it was. You know, and telling people to buy bumpers or holding it differently was not an answer that should have ever come out of their mouth.
That their first.
I was talking about this with some friends over breakfast this morning, and I said I was saying that the way that Apple should have said it was knowing that, gee, it really is important that we keep this idea that we have this most advanced, incredible new phone, keep it going for at least 2 weeks, and for 2 weeks we're going to say, gosh, that's interesting. We're definitely going to totally look into it, and we'll have some answers for you in a few weeks. If there's a problem with the phone, we definitely want to get to the bottom of it, but we don't want to say anything until we really have some concrete answers.
I don't know. I think they got a massive PR problem right here. They're obviously not. It's not slowing down the sales of the iPhone. But Ray, this is Ray's first time on the show, and Ray, I just want to tell you, don't wait until somebody stops talking. You just got to leap in.
Okay. Well, let me put a different slant on this whole story. The question I have, and I have an answer for this. So the question I have is, why didn't they catch this before they released the phone? And the answer, I think, is I have a suggestion for them. Before they send their phones out for beta test, take off the plastic cover that disguises it as a 3GS.
Yeah.
Have you thought about that?
Everybody's saying that because the Gray Powell phone had that big plastic cover to disguise it. Maybe that didn't. They also, I mean, let's face it, weird, amazing coincidence. But for some reason, AT&T signals around the Cupertino area just fantastic.
Well, I actually have a suggestion for this, and that is that if Apple would like us to beta test their phones, come to our office. Our office is the perfect beta test for reception because it is practically
doesn't work.
It just barely.
Well,
works.
this is the irony: is that everybody else who uses the iPhone apparently lives in bad AT&T signal area. Everybody in San Francisco, for instance.
Yeah. Not that we're bitter.
Not that we're bitter or nothing. All right, okay. As long as I'm trashing Apple, why is it that for the first time ever that they ever release a case, they release a case that just happens by weird coincidence to fix this problem, but do nothing else? The stupid ass bumper case for $30 worth of plastic. Which, by the way, Tom Merritt on Tech News Today last week on our channel tried his Live Strong bracelet. The rubber band bracelet works fine, works just like a bumper, protects it just about as well. Okay, so that's. To me, smoking gun number one. I know.
We'll have that like pulsing soundtrack from JFK.
And then, all right, as long as here's another one. Calling what's his name, Oliver Stone. Here's another one. How come none of the major reviewers who had the iPhone weeks ahead of time, David Pogue, Walt Mossberg, Ed Baig, whoever else, didn't notice this problem? But the minute we get the phone, we notice it.
I believe Mossberg did notice this.
Did he say something?
Had an interesting signal drop. I don't think he prosecuted it as well as people who got it afterwards did. But I do believe I'll look that up right now.
I think the problem is that a lot of us who use iPhones have a very low expectation of the reception.
So
it's kind of like you're reviewing all the other stuff, and the reception's horrible,
crap.
But it's always
normal.
horrible. Yeah,
that's normal. What else would you expect?
Capricious.
All right. So Ray, you think that it just didn't test it properly? I can't.
That throws me for a complete loop. I can't believe that Apple didn't test this unless they were running around with all disguised units during their test.
No.
I mean,
these guys aren't morons.
Yeah, this is insane. And any RF engineer put the antenna on the outside of the phone, which is good from a standpoint of radiation and not having the phone attenuate your signal.
Right.
But it's really bad from the standpoint that it can be touched or attenuated by the grip. And by the way, it's not the DC coupling. It's the, wrapping. I mean, if you wrap your hand around a 3GS phone, your bars will go down as well.
Well, in the old days when we had the StarTAC where you extend the antenna, if you held the antenna, the same thing would happen. I mean, this is just, that's normal.
Right.
Well, I think this comes back to the fact that Apple is a computer company. What they care about is the computer end of this. The phone is like this other thing that they have to add to.
I disagree with you that people who buy iPhones don't care about phone service. Obviously, they do.
I think that if they care about phone service, they don't buy an iPhone. It's not,
There's a solution.
Yeah, but
if you want a phone, we recommend an Android.
No, it's I'm just saying that when I talk to people who don't have an iPhone, I say, why don't you have an iPhone? And just out of curiosity, they're like, because they want better. They want Verizon. And that's the bottom line is they want good. They say I spend a lot of time on the phone. I care about my calls. I care about all this other stuff. I'm afraid I'll drop calls. People like me, I look at dropping calls as a feature, not a bug.
Well, good news because a feature. Yeah. Good news because go ahead, Andy.
Sorry, I was about to say I've pulled up Mossberg's iPhone 4 review, and it was as I remembered, where he's saying my test network reception was a mixed bag. Next paragraph. Yet in some places where the signal was relatively weak, the iPhone 4 showed no bars or fewer bars than its predecessor. Here's an interesting line. Apple says that this is a bug it plans to fix and that it has to do with the way the bars are presented, not the actual ability to make a call.
So they knew this.
And this is something that they were telling Mossberg a week before, like at least a few days before the thing was released.
Wow.
So it's interesting that this was, if this is the same issue, if part of the company is telling some things to the press that other parts of the company were either unaware of or were not telling to the rest of the public until, really they found themselves kind of backed up against a wall here.
Because this is exactly the line they ended up saying, which is, it's a software problem.
On at least 6 occasions during my test, the new iPhone was either reporting no service or searching for a network, while the old one held in my other hand was showing at least a couple of bars.
Oh. Well, I haven't seen that. That's worse than I thought. I mean, I haven't seen that problem.
That's consistent. That's what I was seeing on day one myself. Where
you were.
I actually had the two side by side. I was trying to. I would hold it in. I would hold the iPhone in my normal left hand, and I'd see the bars go beep, down, 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 and I'd be holding the iPhone 3 in my other hand just to check it out. And of course, by the time I didn't understand the problem, so I grabbed my camera, was trying to document the problem, and of course I do that by putting both phones back down on the desk so I can operate the camera.
It gets better.
Then all the bars would get back up again.
Well, I can't remember why we tried it, but we tried it the minute we got a phone in studio on Thursday, a week ago Thursday, when the phones came out, and we immediately were able to document it. So, but I think probably somebody tipped us and said, "Try this,"
Yeah.
Let me chime in here and say that, of course, we haven't got the iPhone 4 in Canada yet, but my 3GS, I have 4 networks available to me in Canada, all of which I can tether to my laptop.
Yeah. Well, you can tether now. The iPhone 4 OS allows you to tether for a fee.
There's no fee on ours.
Yeah, shut up.
Just part of the
do you have a data limit though? Do you have a data limit?
Yes. Yeah, and we don't have any unlimited data, and we pay more per month than you guys. I pay $60 a month, and that gets me 500 megabytes, which is, for the way I use it, that's fine.
So wait, 500 megabytes?
Yep.
I'm sorry. I know, because I was just...
I use that in a week.
I use that in a day.
No, you don't use that in a day, do you really?
Not maybe 500, but 200.
You use it more in the field than most people, because if you use Wi-Fi at all,
my son pointed out. I guess he figured out how to. He finally set up his measurement to measure a month, and he said he goes through about 6 gigs a day, 6 gigs a month.
Interesting. Let me just check this iPhone, which has been in use for a week and a half. 25 megabytes sent, 101 megabytes received. So you're using a lot more than I am, but I use Wi-Fi a lot. I'm out of the house a lot, or out of the office a lot. By the way, so I just use it heavily. Battery life on this is much, much better.
Is it?
I found. Oh, you don't have one. That's right. Yeah. Sorry. Didn't mean to.
Thanks for rubbing it in. The salt, it burns. It burns.
Only half of the panel today have iPhone.
I'm waiting. It should be any day now.
So the good news from Bloomberg, once again, another rumor that this time Verizon is coming for sure in January. For sure. It's got to be. It has to happen.
I believe the rumors that Apple has a CDMA version working. I think that would just make sense. I agree. They were doing that with the PC version of OS 10.
Is the version in Canada GSM? There is no CDMA iPhone anywhere in the world?
I believe it's GSM. Yeah. It's with TELUS. Well, all 4 of our things. Now, they had TELUS started out with a CDMA network, but I believe they've added the GSM.
Oh, so everybody's GSM in Canada now.
There's still CDMA available in some areas.
We're the last.
I'm pretty sure.
U.S. and Mexico are the last.
No, there's actually more CDMA out there now. I mean, I used it in Brazil. Okay. It's rolling out in some areas of Africa. One of the reasons the CDMA is popular is because it costs less to distribute it, because each tower covers. That's why Verizon has better coverage.
Yeah.
Is because each tower can handle more people and cover a larger distance than GSM.
So are people who got the GSM iPhone on AT&T going to be sad when this Verizon is if Verizon?
Some people are. Some people are going to be. They're going to really wish they had had the Verizon.
Should people wait?
No.
No, because this is another rumor like we've been hearing for a year and a half.
And we've already decided iPhone users don't care about phone
They
calls.
don't care about phones. Good news. You don't care about phones. You thought you did. I'm still. Well, that's what I do. I carry a Nexus 1 for phone calls, and I use the iPhone for words with friends.
If you really care about great phone calls and it's really that important, the reception, it is always going to be better on Verizon, and it's not going to become. You shouldn't. The iPhone just isn't the phone for you.
Yeah, it's not just reception; it's also coverage. There are places where I would never. There have been times when I've been testing out like a Verizon phone. And lo and behold, I'm in the middle of a highway, or I'm in the middle of Vermont, or any of these other like technologically backwards places, and 0 bars on AT&T, at least 3 bars on Verizon. So for me, it's more about the coverage map than anything else.
Gary K in our chat room points out there is a good feature to this antenna attenuation issue. If you are talking to somebody you don't want to talk to, you just hold the phone a certain way and.
Yeah, then you can call back. You can email them later and go. I lost you. These iPhone 4s.
There is a good reason to have an iPhone. Because if anytime you want, you go. I can't. I'm on an iPhone, and you're gone.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's actually a good reason.
You just have to go. Stupid phone.
Stupid phone. All right, we're going to take a break. Ray, I forgot to mention before you joined us that we do a pick of the week. So think about between now and the end of the show, which is about 18 days from now. Think about. But if they run true to form. Yeah, and we'll talk about how much brighter this show is. Not smarter, just brighter in a little bit. But, Ray, we'll give you a chance to do that in a second. Before we do, though, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for me to mention Drobo. D-R-O-B-O. Drobo. I can't play my sound effects right now.
We're still in between.
In the rewiring, we're missing that little piece. But just imagine, if you will, a lovely Drobo jingle leading into a great Drobo commercial. Drobo is the amazing device that allows you to store tons of data. Just tons of data. There's the original Drobo. That's the one I I still have backing up my Mac at home. It has 4 disk bays. So it's great for your iTunes library or your, photo collection, anything where you got a lot of data. It's got data redundancy, so if any of those drives fails,
I have some Drobos.
You pop it out. You have some original Drobos?
I have some of the original ones. I have the Drobo Elite as well. And we have it at the office. We have 5 iMacs editing from it, and then we have and then I have 2 at home, and those one's like my company stuff, and the other one's my personal stuff. And what's great is I started off with 500 gig drives. And then, just slowly, now they're all 2 terabyte drives. But I just slowly just added them as I needed them.
Well, the good news about Drobo is there's a Drobo for every user. You can start with the Drobo, then go to the Drobo S. That's a 5-drive Drobo. So that has more storage. What is it? What is the biggest drive? I think they've announced 3 terabyte drives now. So that when those come out, you'll be able to get 15 terabytes.
And the thing is with Drobo, I've also been a little bit more adventurous getting the bigger drives, knowing that if one fails, I just put another one in.
Yeah. And that's another thing I like about it is that unlike RAID, where the smallest drive becomes the size of all the drives, you can mix and match, and it adds them all up. It takes about quarter to a third of it for redundancy. That's why it doesn't lose any data when a drive dies. And the rest of it is available to you. It's just amazing.
You can't get into a situation where you're adding like a drive, and if you add another big drive, you don't see that much growth because it does have to keep track of what that is. But it is. I just when people ask me how they want to back stuff up for their house, I'm just like,
the easiest way.
Don't think.
Now, the Drobo Pro has 8 bays, so that's 8 times 2, 16 terabytes, although soon to be 24 terabytes. That's the beauty of this. As drive capacities go up, so does your Drobo capacity. And you have the Drobo Elite. That's also 8 bays, but it's a SAN. It supports 16 computer connections via its dual gigabit Ethernet ports. So they look like hard drives to the rest of the network. That's why your editors can work on it. It's fast enough for multiple people to use.
I didn't think it was going to work.
When
they sent us to test one, I was like, I don't know if this is going to work, but we'll test it, and it works great.
The Drobo FS, which is the file system Drobo, I guess that's what the FS stands for. Look, you can find out more by going to drobo.com/MacBreak, and you can use the coupon code MacBreakWeekly, all in caps, to save $75 to $500 off a populated Drobo. You could buy them without hard drives if you've got some lying around, as most of us do. You don't need to buy the drives. You can also buy them with hard drives in them. Drobo testimonials. There's Victor Cayo talking about Drobo. Callie Lewis, too. Which Drobo's right for you? Well, take a look. Drobo.com/MacBreak and get those great deals, the great savings of up to $500 when you use MacBreak Weekly as your offer code. D-R-O-B-O, Drobo. I miss those jingles.
What happened? Oh, because the Drobo.
It's on this thing.
Are gone, and it's right.
It's on this thing. It's a wiring.
So sad.
Okay, so literally, what happened over the last 24 hours is kind of stunning. We tore the whole studio apart. Ken and Shepardson, John Slanina, tore Kelly. What's Kelly's last name? From allinonetruck.com. You ought to know. You're the one who hooked us up, Alex. Kelly's great. Kelly is a movie and lighting guy. And he drives around in this truck. It's kind of amazing. It's called All-in-One Truck. It has everything in this one truck. If you go to all-in-one-truck.com.
The truck is literally the coolest truck I've ever.
It's parked in our driveway right now.
Yeah, it's the coolest truck I've ever seen.
It's so amazing.
It's got like a little area for the director to sit in the back part of the cab, so you can be shooting and you can be watching.
He's got a red camera in it, a 25-foot jib camera. Tow, dolly, a bunch of lights. This guy's amazing. The whole crew. Anyway, so we love Kelly. He came and he did us a great service. He way underbid what it should cost to do this. And we put in a whole new rig. Now, the lighting rig was the first thing we did when we moved into this studio. Colleen Kelly set this up for us. You remember? And we
stick with the Kellys. We went from
we only use Kellys to do this. And but Kelly's replaced the original kind of wasn't exactly code. Gorilla lighting rig with, what do you call this tubing?
It's called speed rail.
Speed rail.
So this is just...
It's freestanding, though. It does not, because we're in a heritage home. We're in an antique house.
So that was one of the challenges, was to build it in a way that doesn't affect the house at all. And this is something that is common in Hollywood, but it's not something that and the speed rail, I mean, we had so much fun. I mean, it was,
It's so beautifully done. So now all the cameras are suspended from the ceiling. There are no more tripods. We've got new lights in here. You probably notice if you're watching the video that's a little bit brighter. We're still tweaking the lighting.
But it's a lot more light. I mean, it's a lot more light.
Well, it's interesting too because these look like they come from IKEA.
Well, there's 3 China balls, and the China
ball is actually a paper lantern.
It's a paper lantern, and it's $3. That's $3, and then they have CFLs that are inside of them that are, I believe, they're 80 watts that put off. They're
5,500 lumens.
I think they're the equivalent of either a 400 or 500 watt bulb.
So
like a standard.
They satisfy the 2 lighting requirements. You know, we still have the LED light panels, quite a few of them as highlights and hair lights and stuff like that. But they satisfied the requirement that we had for lighting in here, which was that it doesn't use a lot of power because this is again an antique home, but also it doesn't.
There's no heat.
Yeah, and so this is kind of amazing. We are in a very bright studio now. All of a sudden,
and
everything. And when they were doing that, they took the opportunity to tear all of the wiring out and rewire all the cameras, rewire all the audio and stuff. So that's why I can't play jingles right now. We're still rewiring some of the audio, the Axia system that Telos put in for us, which is awesome. This studio is getting better and better, and we keep talking about moving to a bigger studio because of TNT and stuff, and I almost don't want to now. It's getting nicer and nicer.
They're like, oh no, he added the speed rail. Now I
don't want to move.
He's going to be here for another.
I want to stay here.
Now, Leo, you have an actual chair.
I have a chair. Well, we moved the desk forward 6 inches. We couldn't actually put a chair in behind the desk because it was too tight. So we moved it forward 6 inches. And now his chair can be slid.
And it still feels like there's more room. It still feels like there's more room because the cameras are all suspended from the grid now.
Anyway, nobody cares about this, but that's the long way around of explaining.
Cool.
Yeah, if you ever come to visit, we do have visitors come to the studio all the time. In fact, Tony Schutz is in here from Champaign, Illinois.
I need to shoot a new QuickTime VR.
And Glenn Carty, who's visiting from outside of Tokyo. He grew up in Napa, but he lives in Kawaguchi. Wow, that's neat. Nice to see you both. So we've stuck them in the corner. And Tony, by the way, is Tefman in IRC, T-E-F-M-A-N. So it's nice to have you both in studio. We have more room now for guests. Moving right along to item number 2. We're only an hour into the show on our second item now, ladies and gentlemen. Consumer Reports says iPhone's supposed signal woes aren't unique and may not be serious. This John Gruber says, and I think he's right, that the consensus now is that, yes, there's a problem with this antenna thing, but the iPhone still has a better reception than it has in the past, and nobody should worry too much about it.
That's absolutely true. In my testing for 5 days, I had both of the old phone and the new phone. And the old phone is my real carry around phone. So every time I was using my own phone, and I noticed that I didn't have the full 5 bars. I'd always take out the iPhone, and every single time I'd have more bars on the iPhone 4 than on the iPhone 3GS. So that's just like half the story of every single radio inside this device is better than the 3GS, from the data speeds all the way down to the Wi-Fi, all the way down to the GPS. So that's such the bad reception is a very real problem, but it's only one part of the whole story.
There's other issues. There's a proximity sensor issue, which is intermittent for me. That's the thing where you hold it up to your face and it's supposed to blank the screen. But I noticed this in day one, that I was accidentally triggering touch tones or muting the call while I was talking on it, because of course I have sculpted cheekbones. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's because of my model-like appearance. But no, I actually have a face like a potato. However, it's still enough
maybe those implants are very high capacitance.
It might be. Or I should have gotten maybe the plastic ones instead of the
Botox.
titanium.
It's actually the Botox.
Yeah,
is really the problem.
But that's a known problem people have talked about. Maybe it's an easy thing to fix. I don't know if it's a hardware or software issue. Apparently, there's a software problem with FaceTime and blank screen FaceTime issues. So there are a few bugs in this iPhone 4. Let me ask the panel. Now, only 2 of us have iPhones, so maybe this isn't the time to do it. I'll ask Andy. Would you recommend an iPhone 4?
Definitely, because when you look at all the different pluses of the iPhone 4, it really outweighs the few negatives that there are. That said, I don't think that anybody should be in a particular rush to get one. Because even if it were a perfect product at release, some people need to be reminded that they're making more than 30 of these. So, if you want to buy one 6 months from now, they'll probably have they can probably help you out with that.
You'll have a chance.
And there's a basic principle that I always talk about whenever Apple does a radical new way of designing something or building something. It is a radical new way of putting together a phone, and I don't think that anybody really knows what the problems are with this design until they put 1 million of them out there. If it's the difference between buying a Toyota model that's been out for 6 or 7 years and buying like the brand new product line. They've been building these things for years and years and years. They know where the wiring harnesses should go. They know which step they should take an extra 4 minutes on when they're assembling it to make sure that something is checked properly. They know which glue needs to dry a little bit longer than this other sort of adhesive. It takes a while before they can figure out those things. It takes millions and millions and millions of these before they figure that out. So anytime Apple comes out with a radical new design, my general advice is to hang back, wait for the revision B if it's going to come for a few months, and just see what comes out 3 or 4 months from now. That said, I mean, I have an order for my own iPhone 4. If it were possible for me to simply temporarily put my SIM in one of these loaner phones and use that for a few months, I would do that. But the fact that the iPhone 4 brings so many extra advantages to me, especially advantages that I personally really resonate with that really improved new camera. That means that, you know what, I don't think there are any show-stopping problems for me, or nothing that won't be fixed with a firmware update in the future. So my order still stands, and mine's coming in next week.
All right. And Ray, you're going to buy one, I presume, when one's available.
The camera part is the part that really interests me.
It's
because,
a great camera.
Yeah, from everything that I'm hearing, the camera is great, and I really don't use the camera in this 3GS because I'm too fussy.
Yeah. I mean, you're a 5D shooter. You may not and leaf backs and stuff. You really a high-end shooter, so you may not still like this. But I have to say, it's as good as a 5-megapixel point and shoot.
I think I
wouldn't say that. But
you wouldn't say that, Andy?
I think it's the best phone camera that has not been designed specifically to be a kick butt camera. Nokia, for instance, has made a couple of cameras that were really, they start off with a big thick lens, and then they build a phone around it. I don't think anything can really compare with that kind of a build quality. It does have a few problems. It's having some problems with white balance, as far as I can tell. It also has the flash. I don't think is quite as powerful as it should be.
No, it's a single LED.
Yeah, I mean, the Droid X has twin LEDs, and boy, does it light up the room.
Yeah.
I've been I actually did a 5-way side-by camera phones plus my Nikon P6000 like pocket cameras control group. Those are going to be posted on my blog and on Flickr later this week. The iPhone 4 was clearly the winner for so many reasons, not the least of which was the fact that I think they have the best software for controlling the camera.
It's fast too, not a lot of lag time. You can take pictures rapidly.
Matter of fact, you can take shots in sequence with it very easily. I think you could really do like a 3 or 4 sequence shot very easily with it. So I'm really pleased with it. I really do think it's the best camera phone out there. Again, taking out the ones that have like the $8,000 lenses in them. But I don't think you're still in a situation where if you're in a situation where you think you're going to want to take pictures, you're going to want to take a real pocket camera with you.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I shouldn't have said it's as good as a pocket camera. But the nice thing is you have it.
It's fantastic. My standard test shot is of Bates Hall at Boston Public Library, just this gorgeous cavernous room built in the 1890s. It's a study area with deep, rich wood oak tables going all the way off into infinity with marble on the sides. And you want to test a low light, you want to test a detail, and you want to test a color. That's the best test you can possibly find. And boy, that picture I took with the iPhone 4 is almost good enough to say it's as good as any other camera that I've ever tried with it. It's just fantastic.
Well, and I think I really believe in the concept of the best camera is the camera that you have with you. And I think that there are many times when I find that I'm taking these what turn out to be great photos. I mean, photos that are happy, that capture the moment that I'm in.
This is
I'm not carrying it around.
This shot was a few inches away from that rose. I mean, it's almost a macro. It almost has macro capability. You can get the focal length on it. I haven't done official tests on it. It's quite good. So Ray, that's one of the things that's going to sell you on this.
Yeah, I want to have a look at the camera when it comes out, and but like I say, I shoot 99% of my stuff with a 5D Mark II. So
yeah,
I
think it's a good. It's nice for a phone. I guess we could agree on that.
Ray, as a serious shooter, are you happy with the iPhone's just one button sort of interface? Just the way the camera app works, even on the 3GS.
Yeah, on the 3GS, I'm not wild about the pictures that come out of it. I have shot a few, and everyone is just a snapshot record shot that, I'm... the only place I'm happy to put it up is on the web in a, kind of 3x5 inch maximum. It falls apart too much, and it isn't the fastest thing to work with compared to a live DSLR.
Yeah, I mean, if there's one thing that I wish that Apple could steal from the Android cameras, again, the Android software is just terrible, but I wish I had more manual controls. If you want to overexpose by one stop, you can tap a button and tap overexpose by one stop. If you want to set manual white balance, you can set manual white balance. I really wish that the next iteration of the software had a little like a page curl or a little revolving button where we just simply flip the entire screen around to reveal a set of like SLR type little icons, so that if I want to have really precise manual control, I can do it.
Yeah, all you can do right now is just touch the screen and expose.
Right, and that's good because you can select focus, you can select an exposure point. But every single time that the iPhone 4 screwed up a shot, it would have been the simplest thing in the world to simply say, "Oh, well, I need to set this to tungsten white balance," and that would fix it immediately. But there's just no solution for it with the iPhone 4's built-in camera app.
So, Ray, you're going to get one.
Well, we'll see. I'm going to try one out. Let's put it that way.
Yep. Andy is already getting one, and you, Alex, have ordered one.
I'm going to buy. I think I'm going to buy 4 or 5. Well, I'm upgrading my kids. It was $18 to upgrade them for their. They already have iPhones, so I'm going to upgrade my kids' iPhones and my wife's iPhone.
So that's actually maybe a better question. It's not would you buy one, but what would you upgrade a 3GS to this? Is it enough of an improvement?
My kids have 3Gs.
3G, I can see.
So I'm moving them all up to the. I'm going to move them to the 4 because I want to use FaceTime with them. And
that's my big regret is that because I don't have a family of not that they'd ever want to talk to me, but the family would have FaceTime.
Yeah, that's such a big deal. One of my neighbors, I was driving past and I saw like I saw one of my neighbors like chasing her little kid with a MacBook and like playing, and the kid was also playing with a father. And I pulled over and like asked what was going on. I said, "Oh, it's like the second time he's walking, and now he's like I've got iChat with his grandparents."
Jeez, it's like an ad.
Yeah, it's literally. I was like, you know what? I have 2 loaner phones from Apple. It was so adorable. I wanted to give her one of mine and have her send the other one to the grandparents because that is an Apple commercial.
That's a FaceTime.
And we're getting them for the grandparents specifically for FaceTime, just because we've got little kids and grandparents want to see them.
That's a good point. I hope my mom's not watching.
I see. I can say that kind of stuff because I know that my grandparents or my parents and parents-in-law are not watching, so I can say we're getting them iPhones.
Oh yeah, they're all going to have iPads, iPhones, laptops, everything. Yes. By the way, Macworld Magazine is reporting, and I'm going to try it right now on my phone, that the proximity sensor that AppleCare is telling people with proximity sensor issues that they just if they reset their network settings, that fixes it. So I'm going to go to the settings, reset. Don't reset the whole thing. You don't want to erase the phone, erase all contents. It's just reset network settings. That's all you have to do. And then they say that that's sufficient. I'm going to hide my password here. that's sufficient to fix the proximity, we'll see, sensor issue, which does indicate that it would be a software issue.
Has anyone had a bug with their iPads related to when you're watching a movie? And this is, a movie that you bought from the iTunes store or whatever on your iPad, that it suddenly becomes unresponsive. While the movie's playing, you can't get to the time controls.
I've heard of this
because I'm running into it every movie that I get from iTunes. Now, if I have my own movie or whatever else I put on, it's fine. It's totally responsive. But if I get a DRM movie from,
I wonder if it's checking the DRM.
I don't know what it's doing, but it will not let me get. So I literally have to quit out and then come back in to get it. And by the way, I've given up on movies on iTunes and iPad.
Really?
I'm done. I'm so angry.
What?
I downloaded a bunch of movies. So my family, we were on vacation last week in Cape Hatteras, North Carolina, and I figured we could watch a couple movies at the house. And I downloaded them on my iPad, figured I can plug them into the TV and we can all watch them together.
Yeah.
No, you can't. You have to. If you plug your iPad and take the movie that you paid for and put it on your TV, you can't do it because it's not an approved device. But if you rip it, it works fine. It's like these idiots. Not Apple. The MPAA are just a bunch of idiots. Yeah. I mean,
They don't allow, because VGA is an analog connector, they won't allow that signal to go through HDMI. Or rather, to go out.
It is,
and yeah, that was when I was reviewing the iPad, that was my major Whiskey Tango Foxtrot moment for the entire thing. It was literally, you have that like sort of Tyra Banks moment where you're like, I'm not seeing what I'm seeing, because if I'm seeing what I'm seeing right now, if you've decided that I can't use the movie that I just bought and paid for on this HD TV on this device I just paid an extra $30 for, you're not telling me you're not going to allow me to do that, are you?
It's just insane. It is insane. And the thing is now, I'm just, people ask me, how do you get the movies on there? I'm like, you rip them. Right. Because it's not even worth buying them. You guys, the movie companies need to get their ass out of that dark area that it's stuck in, and start realizing that people are paying for it. They're paying for it. So you should let them, plug their iPad in. What is wrong with these people?
Maybe they spend too much time waiting in a iPhone line.
Yeah. Mindless zombie. I wish I knew how long we've been waiting.
The iPhone has an app for that? Is there an app for kissing my shiny metal ass? Several. Ooh.
This is Futurama, the iPhone.
Oh no,
episode.
The light. I guess I'm off to hell.
That's the store, Professor.
You are?
iPhone spelled E-Y-E phone.
Wow, it's that obscure underground song that's constantly playing everywhere.
Hello, dearies. Welcome to the Bomb Store. The new iPhones are in short supply, so please form an orderly...
Are there any left?
There may be one. Okay, it's $500. You have no choice of carrier. The battery can't hold a charge, and the reception isn't very...
Shut up and take my money.
The new iPhone is wonderful. I use it to check recipes and send threatening emails to unauthorized third-party app developers.
Well, that was Futurama, the debut episode for this new season. And actually, you got to go see the whole thing.
Was it true that scene was actually cut? It aired once and then mysteriously disappeared?
I don't know, because I can imagine Apple might have some problem with the word iPhone in there, even though it's spelled E-Y-E.
It seems like that would fit into the satire.
That's why
clause fairly cleanly.
That's our defense for running it. By the way,
right?
We're covering it.
It's journalism.
It's journalism. It's the news. It's in the news. I don't know. Did it? That's interesting. If it did,
I'm looking up now. I remember seeing. I remembered something about
third episode. I should say, not the debut episode. The third episode. And I'm not going to play. I played on Twit the Best Buy guy who's apparently losing his job for making the. You've seen that, the Evo versus iPhone video.
Yeah.
If you didn't watch Twit, we bleeped it there. I don't want to put the editors through the hell that I put them through.
According to Mac Life, notices that the clip of that same episode on ComedyCentral.com entitled "Fry and Leela's Humiliation" differs from the broadcast in the last few seconds, in which a set of zombies are shambling into the Momcore store to a voiceover of introducing the all new iPhone 2.0, to which the crowds cheer with fistfuls of money. Cunt to Mom, who then says, "Dumb bastards."
Oh. Yeah, we didn't. That was the clip I ran, the Comedy Central clip. It does not have that.
Right.
So I guess you're right. They cut it a little bit.
Well, maybe it was the blue language. At Comedy Central, they don't approve of that working blue. That's they want people to get by on their materials, not on shock value.
Exactly. Exactly. All right, moving along. We're going to come back. We will stop all this iPhone nonsense. I think we've covered it. Oh, I didn't ask you, Andy. Upgrade from the 3GS to an iPhone 4, you think?
I think so. The differences between the old one and the new one are that big and that significant, I think, to make it worthwhile. It would depend, though, like how far you are into your contract. I mean, if you think that if you look at the list of features in the iPhone 4 and you don't think that you are going to desperately need these for the next few months, I would hold off until the next 3 or 4 months, for not only for the reasons that I already stated, but Verizon, It's David Mamet is going to definitely direct like the introduction video for Verizon iPhone, because it's been a waiting for Godot sort of sequence for the past 2 or 3 years. But I think that anybody who buys an iPhone and then 2 months later Verizon comes out with one, it's not necessarily you're going to want to get the Verizon version of it, but you're at least going to wonder, gee, I wish I had that extra option. Well, I travel enough internationally that I actually want the GSM version instead of the CDMA version.
Right. That's a very important point. The other point is that the CDMA version will not allow you to do data while you're on a phone call. That's something only GSM can do. Yeah. So, and
GSM is easy. You can use Verizon phones internationally, but not nearly as widely as you can if it's a GSM model.
So those are important points. I probably, because I travel, I would probably stick with the AT&T version because, like Alex, I don't make phone calls with this thing.
Well, the text messaging is very important to me. Well, the funny thing is that it's so expensive that you go overseas, though, and the problem you get into is just how expensive is it going to be to make that phone call.
Now, remember, you're going to get iOS 4 on your 3GS, so it's not like you don't have multitasking and folders.
Yeah, man, that screen.
I know, the screen.
And the FaceTime.
No, I think FaceTime is an absolute gimmick that no one will use, except you and your family.
Yeah, exactly.
Make sure you mark that clip for editing later on.
Yeah.
Please do. I stand by this. I stand by this. I think FaceTime, we're going to look back in a year and say, yeah, that was the one thing on the iPhone 4 nobody used.
Really?
Yep.
Okay.
I'll stand by it. Here, let me say it here. Let me say it like this. Note the date, July 6th, 2010.
12/25.
FaceTime is a stupid gimmick that no one will end up using. There, I said it.
Yeah. Now, I would point out that there's a phase problem in other countries. You see, you're asking me if I will upgrade. One of the problems with me upgrading right away, even when it appears in Canada, is I've only had the 3GS for about 6 months. I had to wait a year to get the 3GS. And I don't know how long I'll have to wait before the 4, the iPhone 4 is available in Canada.
I think they're speeding up that cycle, though.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Well, because it builds a huge gray market. I mean, that's what happens if you don't do it. The demand is so high. I mean, in Africa, there's almost no country has it, but everyone has one.
Right. It was that way in China for a long time. Yeah.
Right.
All right, we're going to take a break. Come back with more. Our great panel: Mr. Ray Maxwell, erstwhile of Maxwell's House color scientist, raconteur, photographer, Photoshop whiz is here from Vancouver. We've got Alex Lindsay sitting in the chair to my left in the brand new hot light. See his hair light? We're going to have to brush our hair now when we come in here because our hair is lit. Used to be we were sitting in murky darkness. Yeah, now we can see the,
I got the hole right here.
Yeah. We didn't used to be able to see that.
I got another hole.
And I look tired. But Andy Ihnatko looks fantastic because he's lighting himself there in his studio in New England.
Thank you. Thank you, IKEA.
That's what we got. China globes.
There you go. It's like a cylindrical China globe.
Andy writes for the Chicago Sun-Times, and his website is cwob.com.
How much did that set you back?
This set me back a good, $23. I like it a lot.
It's perfect. It's exactly what we did in here.
Yeah, and if I have carpentry skills, I still need to set up lighting in here because again, I don't look quite so fresh faced as I was back when I was a lad and started doing the show 2 years ago.
Look at my nose; it's getting bigger. And it's
fortunately I've given up long ago, so it's not really an issue.
This show brought to you by Squarespace.com, the place where great websites begin. Squarespace is both hosting and a fantastic content management system that allows you to quickly and easily create a beautiful and exceptional website, a site you'd be proud to show everyone. We're using it for our Inside Twit blog. I'm moving the Tech Guy site to it. I know you use it, Alex, for a lot of your sites. We just fell in love with this because, first of all, you start with these great templates that don't look like templates. They're so easily customized. If you decide you want full control, you have absolute access to CSS and JavaScript, so there's nothing you can't do. Beautiful photo galleries, incredible stats, post from the iPhone with a beautiful application. It is just fantastic. I want you to try it free for 14 days. Go to squarespace.com/MacBreak. No credit card needed, no commitment. In fact, you can import your data from your existing blog or website. Make it easy to see what it's going to look like.
If you were looking at trying to build some website and you need to get something up, you want it to look good, and you want to have the control, and you want to do it yourself because you're still trying to figure it out. This is really just such a great solution to just get it done. You know, if you've been waiting, I mean, you'll spend a half a day sitting there noodling around, grabbing some demo, and then it's working. And it's working. And you don't have to think about what server or moving it from one server to another or doing any of that stuff. It's just going to be there running.
For blogs, for photographers.
For your business.
For your business.
All of those things are...
Starts at $8 a month. Squarespace.com/MacBreak. And if you use the promo code, when you decide to sign up, and I know you will, when you use the promo code MacBreak to sign up, you get 10% off your Squarespace site for life. Squarespace.com/MacBreak. We thank them so much for their support of MacBreak Weekly. Let's see. Oh, you know, this is an interesting story, and I'd like to get your take on this. There was a Steve Jobs email exchange in which at the end Steve Jobs says, calm down, retire. It's just a phone. Apple denied it. Then the people, was it Boy Genius Report? I think it was Boy Genius Report. The people who published originally said, no, it's true. It definitely came from Steve Jobs. We can prove it. Except for the last line, retire. It's just a phone. That we added that accidentally. So
they added that accidentally at the end?
In an editing error. Somehow it got added.
See, this gets a whole journalistic blog thing that gets them in trouble.
We're off the hook here because we just report what they say, so we don't have to take any responsibility for actually journalism or anything.
Exactly.
So Apple says it's a fake. Boy Genius says it's not a fake. It's very confusing. I don't know what the gist of it is. It didn't feel real, I have to say, when I read it. Steve was much more engaged than he would normally be. It felt like something made up. So, absent any more information, I'm going to say I think it was a fake too. Did you read it, Andy? Do you have an opinion on it?
I read the exchange. It didn't feel like a typical Steve Jobs exchange. I mean, you look at the, just like when you're trying to develop the provenance of an artist. You know, is this a real Picasso or not? You look at the artist's previous works. And the artist who has done previous exchanges like this has given you maybe one follow-up, and that's it. And he has never been this wordy.
Right.
So I think that whoever it is who was trying to get some play for this conversation,
apparently shopping it. They shopped it around.
Exactly.
Saying,
there's that too.
Yeah.
I think the burden of proof is on him to not simply say it, but also, well, you got to prove that this was coming from where you're saying it's coming from.
Boy Genius Report said we looked at the headers. We're satisfied they couldn't be easily faked, but the guy sold it to
gmail.com. What else are you going to ask for?
The guy who sold it to him apparently gave them access to his Gmail account so they could see the headers directly themselves. And I don't know. We report. You decide. It's good enough for Fox. It's good enough for me. I'm trying to think. Did we talk last week about the Hulu Plus coming to the iPad? I think we just
coming. Oh, it's in private
just
beta,
released,
right?
but it's in private beta. Has anybody gotten a invitation? I asked.
Requested.
Yeah, I have. I've had it for about a week.
God damn you!
And
it works. It works well.
This is going to be $10 a month.
He says tentatively.
It delivers what they say it delivers, which is you get Hulu content on your iPad and your iPhone, and it works just fine, even over 3G networks. I watched 3 different. I've been watching TV episodes, and even when I turn off the Wi-Fi and just watch it over 3G, I get mostly HD presentations. Sometimes it does drop down into SD. The first day I had a couple technical glitches with it, but that seemed to have been ironed out over the days after that. I think it's just down to a question of, is this a really practical thing? And that's something that only you yourself, each individual person can answer. For me, the problem is that half-hour episode of that comedy that took about 25 minutes to spool out was 150 megabytes of data transfer.
You want to do that
and
on
if you're
Wi-Fi.
stuck at the 2 gigabyte cap, that's a problem. The bigger problem is the ads. And you're kind of okay with the idea of paying for ads on cable because you're getting like a jillion channels for $40, and it's on 24 hours a day. When you're paying $10 a month and there's still commercial breaks, and worse, not only the very first show that I watched, the first commercial break, not bad enough. It was an ad for Sex and the City 2. That's bad enough.
Yeah.
But there was also an electronic ad pop-up overlay for Lipton iced tea on top of the ad.
Oh, no.
And so I felt like, okay, so you're going to be sending, if I were a paying subscriber, you're going to be sending me now a check for 83 cents because I feel as though I need to be paid to watch all that stuff. So if you're that addicted to Hulu content, it's fine. Otherwise, I'm not sure where this is going. The good news is that Hulu Free will continue to be a free service. The way that that Hulu explained it to me, and I had to really fine-tune this question 3 times because they kept answering it, and I wasn't sure that they understood the question. They seem to be telling me that the same Hulu free service that you're using right now will still be available to you for free, that this is a paid service that will extend the reach of Hulu onto other devices. Whether that is really the case or not, I'm not 100% convinced he really understood exactly the question that I was asking, but for now, I believe that if you're watching new episodes of House every week for free via your web browser on your desktop or your notebook, that you'll still be able to do that a year from now.
Something a little more serious happened this week. I remember, I think it was, I was doing the radio show, and a number of people in the chat room said, my iTunes was hacked. My iTunes was hacked. And apparently, according to Mashable, a number of Apple IDs were hacked, and people who lost their account lost hundreds of dollars worth of apps in the App Store. Some are saying it's not as widespread as reported. We don't really know. We just know that this was happening, and we saw it on Twitter. People were talking about it on Twitter.
I noticed a lot of funkiness with my account last week, which is that it was suddenly I had to log in like every time it did something new.
Yeah.
So it suddenly had tightened up somewhere, and there was something wrong, but I couldn't figure out what it was. I don't think anyone's hacked it.
Yeah, I don't know what the story is on this. If there was a larger issue with iTunes security, or if just an unusual number of people, maybe somebody was trying to guess passwords in a broader net. Apple said Tuesday that it removed a seller from its online application store after discovering, that he gamed the store's sales ranking system to appear as though his ebooks accounted for 42 of the site's top 50 electronic books.
Well done. That's all I got to say. Whatever he did, that was good. Not subtle.
His apps removed from the App Store for violating the license. Okay, this is not the same hack attack I was talking about.
There's a note I can interject here with regard to iBooks, and that is I have my iPad here in Canada. I had to wait for that, but I have it, love it. Read books all the time.
Awesome, yeah.
Mostly from Amazon. However, the iBook store in Canada has nothing but the free books, the old classics and so forth. We have no, current selling New York Times list iBooks yet. Darn it, get with it, Apple.
So the hack, I guess the story I just read is related in the sense that Apple used that as an opportunity to tell people change your passwords, probably in response to these other issues. They said, we don't believe any information, developers don't get any information that they could use to get your account information. So even if you downloaded this guy's malicious app, that wouldn't get, but they said, but just in case, change your password.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. If you go into iTunes, if you go into the store homepage into your iTunes, you can also check to see if there have been any recent purchases. Sometimes it takes a few days for purchases to actually be applied to your account. Just be on the lookout for any suspicious activity. Definitely something weird's going on.
Yep.
And you definitely need to start taking a look. I wouldn't go so far as to say that you should definitely disassociate your current credit card from your account or even change your password just yet. No. Unless you haven't changed in a while, in which case you should always be rotating your passwords.
It doesn't hurt to do that.
Isn't the general security rule is that passwords are like underwear and they're the best
Not
when
daily.
Changed often.
Often, not daily.
It does, but it does cast some light on one of the. We've often sort of made jokes about the presence of some of these really weird $100 and $500 and $1,000 iPhone and iPad apps. And you think, oh, geez, who's going to spend $500 on a flashlight app? Now you start to wonder, maybe this is part of a larger plan that step one is to get a whole bunch of $500, $1,000, really, really expensive apps out there, so that when you do exploit this second hack, you're not just taking people for 99 cents or $1.99. You're going to get them for $500 in one shot.
iBooks is available in Canada now, Ray. Did you know that?
Well, the iBooks is available, but it doesn't have anything but the classics on it, the free books. There's no New York Times bestseller list or anything.
They're saying they just told me in the chat room that they've updated it, so you might want to check. I don't know.
Well, I'll check it while we're talking.
Check while we're talking to see if it was just recently.
I do find that the iBooks is way behind. I'm buying a lot of stuff for the Kindle app on my iPad because there's just a lot of the books that I'm interested in are not available in the iBook store.
Right. Well, and as Ray said, you still can use the Kindle. You can still go to Amazon.
But you still use the Kindle app.
Yeah, and I prefer that too.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's just...
There was a recent study by Jacob Nielsen who says you read 10% slower on an iPad or a Kindle than you do in a real book. Does it make any sense at all?
I don't really read linearly, though.
It's keeping distracted by Twitter, maybe?
Yeah, that's why.
Okay, I stand corrected.
There are new books. Yay!
New books are now available.
You can get Eclipse finally.
Yeah. So
you were waiting for that, weren't you? I know that Ray was like, when is Eclipse going to come out? I got to read it. I got to see what the difference in the movie is.
Right. I stand corrected.
Good. Good news.
Are available, and that's wonderful. I've been looking forward to it. I checked within the last week, so it's fairly recent.
The chat room. Credit to the chat room. They told me it was just recently updated, like just now. So,
okay.
That's why we have them.
That's why we've got them there.
They're
Keep
great.
us on our toes.
Yep. Tapulous. Here's a nice story. I love stories like this. Tapulous, which is the company that did the free Tap Revolution app on the iPhone, was hugely successful. They gave it away. They've just been acquired by Disney. Nice job. Tapulous had raised $1.8 million from angel investors, including Mark Benioff and Andy Bechtolsheim. Tap Revenge, that's the one that was the big free game, and then Tap Radiation for the iPad. So Disney Interactive Studios. I'm just looking to see if there's a price for it. They don't say how much they got, but I can bet they got that's
more than $10.
Nice success story.
Yeah,
for a company that did some really nice stuff early on for the iPhone. We're going to take a break. Any other stories before we go that you think are hot? Let me ask the chat room. Tap Revolution was that ever on the iPhone, or was that a game? Why did that come to my mind? I don't know.
Tap Revenge.
Revenge was the one on the iPhone, right?
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take a break, come back with more. We'll talk a little bit about Audible.com as we get ready for our picks of the week. I always like to start our picks with an audio book pick from Audible.com. If you go to audible.com/MacBreak right now, you can get a free book by signing up for the Audible Gold account. That's a book a month, but they don't charge you for the first month. So that first book is free, and incidentally, you can cancel at any time. So you're not tied in, and you get to keep the book. Unlike a lot of other places, the books that you've purchased are available forever in your library, which is very, very nice. Audible.com/MacBreak. Andy, you got a book you've been listening to lately?
Yes, absolutely, and this is a really, really good one. One of the coolest espionage stories of the 20th century was when the Allies were planning like the massive D-Day invasion, and they're working on ideas of how to produce disinformation, so that we want to force the Nazis to sort of make sure that they're defending the wrong ports, the wrong areas, and lots of people working on this problem, but this group of really interesting people in British intelligence came up with this diabolical plan that what they wanted to do was they came up with this idea of dropping a set of fake plans and fake orders and fake information.
Oh, I remember this.
Exactly, into their hands. So they would divert their forces. And the way to make sure that they would believe it is that they constructed this idea that this false story in which there was an air disaster, and one of the people who died in that air disaster was actually a courier carrying top secret high command orders. And the idea was that if they dropped the body from a submarine in the right current points that will probably hit Nazi-controlled areas. And then the key is that they couldn't just put like these papers. Oh, by the way, we're totally not invading here. So, boy, make sure you Mother, don't send. If you're going to send me cookies, don't send me here to Sicily because we're definitely going to be attacking Greece first, and that's where we're going. And so they realized that would be seen through in like about 10 seconds. So they've developed this huge literary story behind this guy. They basically had to find someone who had died of pneumonia, so his lungs would naturally be filled with fluid, so it would look like he drowned at sea. But so they found a fresh body they could use for this. But they also had to develop a detailed backstory where they had to make sure that his uniform was absolutely perfect all the way down to the underwear. Not only that, but they had to make sure that they went to the store where those uniforms were sold and make sure there was a customer record for this fake guy. They filled their wallet with theater tickets, letters from home, made sure that all the letters had like ink smudges on them as if it would be handled step by step by step. It became the most stunningly successful and important piece of fan fiction ever created.
That's a nice way to put it. Yeah.
And so the book is called Operation Mincemeat, and it tells the story about how this project came to be and how it was put together.
It was a movie, also, The Man Who Never Was, right?
The Man Who Never Was was based on the memoirs of one of the guys who was in charge of this operation. It was out in 1953, 1954. Mm-hmm. But this one is not. It's a much more of a spy novel sort of telling of the story. Also, it incorporates a lot of information that has become available in the past 50 years. It stops being when you really get into it. I'm not quite done with it yet. I'm about 80% through the audiobook right now. But it just gets into this idea where everybody's just you can tell that in a sense they're having fun doing this. They're figuring out that they're having these discussions like, should there be like a button on his uniform that has fallen off and he put it back on again, but he doesn't know how to sew, so he didn't do it very, very well. Would that really help sell it? And the end of the story is, of course, that it did work and that it did help divert enormous amounts of troops and ships away from an intending landed zone. It saved like God knows how many lives. But just in this nice little bubble of storytelling, you're just amazed that at some point that you're used to spy stories being that, well, we used one of our we picked up a Soviet agent and we turned him 5 years ago, and so we simply had him put this one piece of information in this 20-page report that just sort of interestingly changed a certain number. You're not expecting this really easily accessible and really detailed, just James Bondian sort of, or even Lewis Carroll style spycraft, and it's just a terrific story. And you're just keeping on reading, thinking that Joel Cohen somewhere has a movie in this idea, because it's just such an interesting story.
I loved the movie when I was a kid. I just loved the idea, Yeah. Very cool. So Operation Mincemeat
by Ben McIntyre. Just came out about a month and a half ago, as a matter of fact.
Now, I just noticed if you join Audible, you get that for free by going to audible.com/MacBreak. And Audible's always giving away stuff for free. I see here they have a new Woody Allen short story, My Apology, that he both wrote and read, and it's free for members. So every once in a while, they just throw stuff in like that, which is fantastic. The fact that there's a whole list of free short stories and first chapters at audible.com. Audible has books in every category: sci-fi, fiction, nonfiction. I read a lot of history on audible.com. I'm listening to a book that was recommended by Tom Merritt and Veronica Belmont, The Wind-Up Girl by Paolo Bacigalupi. Really great sci-fi book right now. Really, really great. There's always something to read when you're a member of Audible. Audible.com/MacBreak. Get that first book free. But I should warn you, you're going to get hooked. Once you start listening to Audible books, you cannot stop. Audible. And in fact, I'm adding Operation Mincemeat to my my list. I cannot wait, because I loved that story when I was a kid. The Man Who Never Was. Audible.com/MacBreak. Thank you, Andy. Great pick. As usual. I don't know how he does it. You're a very literate person, Andy.
I'm a very lonely man who has a very limited social life. I spend a lot of time cloistered inside my house reading books and driving alone. So very alone, Leo.
Now let's get to our picks of the week, starting with Alex Lindsay.
So I have one that is uncharacteristically inexpensive for me.
How many Alexes?
Zero.
Zero Alexes.
Free. So I'm actually going to recommend a demo. So it actually, the actual full app costs something, but I'm going to recommend a demo because it doesn't expire, and it's actually going to be useful for many of our listeners. So there's a program that a lot of us use in movie making called Final Draft, and Final Draft is, of course, it's kind of word processor for doing your scripts. Now you can use Pages or Word or even TextEdit to do these kind of things, but when you have a script editing software, what it does is it formats everything for you. So it'll remember the interior scenes or the exterior scenes, or that you're doing those. It'll format everything out. It'll put everything in the way that you need it, and it really makes writing a script much easier to throw together. What's interesting about what Final Draft does is that they actually have a demo that will work indefinitely, and it simply is limited to 15 pages. And the reason 15 pages is important is because a regular TV show is 22 minutes or 22 pages. So you can't do a half-hour show on it. And so they're selling to people who are really professionals, who are doing, but it turns out if you're doing short films, if you're doing web video, if you're doing other things like that, and you want to take advantage of one of these this script, it's free. And I'm sure that their approach to this is that you can, you can grow your skills, you can start proving yourself, and it'll print with a watermark that says Final Draft or whatever, and that's fine. But you can really start getting started and use it for what you're doing.
Don't submit that script, however.
If you're going to submit the script, what you probably want to do, but you're not going to submit the script because it's only 15 minutes long. Right. And so the thing is, it's $150, I think, or $199 or something like that for the full version. So if you decide you want it, it's not that expensive.
Well, if you're a professional screenwriter, you do want it.
Once you decide you're going to do that.
But is this the best one? I mean, there's a number of these.
I really think that this is still the best one.
This is the king.
Yeah, I still think that this is the best one out there. I think that this is the one that most people kind of expect. Having it around also is useful because people will send you Final Draft versions of things.
Right.
And so it's nice to have. And I believe the demo will open the longer versions. I'm not 100% sure of that. But but Final Draft is still pretty much the standard, I think. And there's setups to do it in Pages, and you can try that. But I really think that if you're getting started with this kind of thing, if you want to see how this really runs, I mean, it allows you to organize in a way that I just haven't seen anywhere else.
Andy, I get the feeling you are writing a script even as we speak. I don't know why. Don't you feel like Andy's writing a script?
I think he's always writing a script.
I don't know why.
I'm writing lots of stuff. I have a couple of scripts that I've written to teach myself how to format things. And
do you use a script writing program like Final Draft? Or
I'd like to. Unfortunately, it's kind of out of my price range. I believe it or not, I use Scrivener, the word processor that does everything, because it has really nice script writing.
It does have, doesn't it? It has modules for that.
I believe it's even compatible with Final Draft.
We lost
Cut. Final Cut.
Final Cut. Final Draft.
It is also compatible with other script writing apps.
And I think Scrivener is great. I think that when I'm looking at doing something and I just want something that's very specialized to exactly what I want to produce, I think that there's just the thing with Final Draft is that they've gotten so much feedback from guys who write scripts all the time that you just end up with lots of little things about being able to tag things and move things around, and I just find its focus is really good.
Did you ever try the free open source program that I had recommended a while ago, Keltex?
I played with it.
It's a little.
Here's the thing: is it for the price? I think it's a great solution. It's free, and so I think people can work on it. I think that once you get, here's the other thing: is if you decide you want to get into the industry, a lot of people are going to when you start working with people, they're going to go, "Can you send me?" And if you send it something other than Final Draft, there's going to be a little like,
yeah,
and so it's great to at least know how it works.
Right.
And the demo, as I said, will work. And especially one of the things that we get into when I talk to budding filmmakers is they talk about writing their first feature. And I'm playing around with ideas for features, but what I'm really worried about is building short films, because you want to learn how to do this. You want to learn about story progression. You want to learn about production while you're in short versions, 2 to 5 minutes, 2 to 8 minutes. Think about those kind of numbers because you don't want, a longer film is just more of the same, and it's also just more places for you to make mistakes, have problems, all these other things. And so in a lot of ways, it's really good to think about your first films being short films. And this is an application that for free you can build those.
I'm just reading Oliver Stone uses Final Draft according to the website.
As I said, I still think it's in one of those lands where most major screenwriters are still using Final Draft.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Creative Screenwriting podcast, where it's just wonderful hour-long and 90-minute-long interviews with screenwriters of whoever's written a really good movie that you've seen in the past 3 months. He'll have he'll have the guy who wrote Up.
Oh, that's great.
The guy who wrote The Hurt Locker on. It's just really wonderful. And so I've been listening to this for like 2 years now, and every time they mention an app, final, that app is so ubiquitous that it's almost like Photoshop, where you say, oh well, I decided to put it into Photoshop, because everyone knows what you're talking about when you talk about this app.
What's in it? It's a screenwriters podcast. Is that it?
Creative Screenwriting, one of my favorite podcasts.
Oh, it's a magazine, Creative Screenwriting.
No, it's a magazine, but he also does a podcast where he does. If you live in LA, they set up regular screenings in which they will screen the film and then have not just an interview with the screenwriter where it's like, so what was it like working with Madonna? But she was
yawn.
He always starts off by saying, we always start off with breaking in stories. How did you break into the business? And it's 90 minutes about the craft of writing, the experience of writing in Hollywood, and then the experience of writing this particular this specific movie.
Look at this guy gets everybody.
Let me say though, if you this is the first time looking at this podcast, your first download is going to be the screenwriter of Valkyrie, because it was an especially long one in which the screenwriter had 1 million stories about working in Hollywood. And that's why I will never work with William Preston ever again, because he drinks. You learn about, here's how stories get broken, and here's how something is developed year after year after year, and how sometimes it's a question of patience, and sometimes it's a question of luck, and sometimes it's a question of some Hollywood starlet who finally wants to make a Western because she likes the clothes she saw a Western heroine wearing, and all of a sudden this Western screenplay you've had kicking around for 5 years is suddenly hot again, because this Hollywood, this famous actress who now can make any movie she wants to wear those clothes in a movie. So anyway,
his name is Christopher McQuarrie, and I found that.
There's almost not a single dud in that entire podcast.
Creative Screenwriting Magazine.blogspot.com, or just creativescreenwriting.com. Wow, I have a bunch of shows to listen to. That sounds really great. He's got John Lithgow on the most recent one, talking about Buckaroo Banzai. How can you get better than that?
In that one, the screening, they showed Buckaroo Banzai, and then his segment from Amazing Stories. Oh no, the Twilight Zone.
Twilight Zone, yeah.
So, anyway, great stuff.
Wow. Well, Andy, we just got another recommendation for you, absolutely free. I'm gonna mention, since we're in the midst of the semifinals and soon to be finals of the World Cup, an application for the iPhone that I've been using to follow the World Cup from ESPN. They have a great application. I was a couple of weeks ago. I was at the food camp, and I was missing the USA game, and I was freaking out. How am I going to see the USA game? So I was able to, using the let's see, where am I coming in? Where is that? Ah, there it is. That's not where I want. I'm going to show you the picture of this here. Let's go back to 6. Camera 5 over to 6. Sorry, we're still working out the studio. So here's the ESPN application, and you can, they have brackets. You can find out who's winning and stuff. And then they had an ad for Mobi TV. Turns out Mobi has sold now a million copies of Mobi TV just because of the World Cup. You can actually watch the World Cup on your iPhone or your iPad. So I was stuck in a seminar at food camp. They have other things besides the World Cup, but this is actually pretty good. I think it was like $10 a month. You can have 6-month or yearly subscriptions. I just bought a month just to see. But you know what? The video looks pretty darn good. I was able to watch the game, even though it's small on an iPhone. It really looks great. So 2 recommendations. One, if you want to follow the World Cup, ESPN has a great World Cup application. And if you want to actually watch the games, and we have a game going on even as we speak right now, you get Mobi.tv. Yeah, the vuvuzelas are firing. Mobi.tv is a great little app for the iPhone and the iPad.
Can I just say something about this art? Did you see that Elgato came out with a vuvuzela filter?
Yeah, isn't that great?
So the thing is, I was like, that's great, but why didn't they just do that, at the broadcast level? Yeah. It was kind of like, because as soon as I heard the vuvuzela, I was like, that's an identifiable sound. They could totally get rid of that.
Totally
I was just like, just sample that, and you'll be able to reduce that by, 20 or 30 dB at least. Without any problem.
I heard the broadcasters were doing that.
Well, they don't have to mic them at all. The truth is, they're miking them. They don't have to have audience sound at all.
Right.
I mean, they're in a booth, for crying out loud.
And they can decide how much they want.
They're doing it on. They're putting exactly as much as they want, Alex.
Right.
We like the vuvuzela.
Yeah, I don't like it that much.
Where's my
He always using the royal V. No one else in this podcast likes the Vuvuzela listeners.
Well, it's too bad because I'm giving Alex a Vuvuzela, and
I've listened to them. I never actually played one.
Now try that Elgato thing.
Okay, I kind of like it. Okay, it's kind of.
All right,
I wouldn't mind them at all if they restricted it to when they score.
No, it's just constant, though, isn't it?
I can see how this could be addicting.
We gotta let me clean off the mouthpiece, and we gotta let Ken Shepardson, our director of engineering. We actually hired him not for his programming or engineering skill, but because he plays a mean vuvuzela. Okay, we're losing the audience now. Sorry.
I just love the fact that we're capping off a discussion of how annoying that sound is
by playing it,
filling our own podcast with the sound of Vuvuzela.
So I was making a recommendation, which I will continue to make, for Moby TV. It plays on a number of different things. I have to say, it's really good, even on 3G. It's really nice to be able to watch on a case like this when there's news or something going on to watch on your iPhone. Looks great. And I trying to remember how much I paid. I don't think it was very expensive. It was, I think, $10. $10 a month. Did I give you enough warning, Mr. Ray Maxwell?
Yep.
Your pick of the week, sir.
My pick of the week is from a company called Topaz Labs. You can find it at topazlabs.com. These people make beautiful, in my opinion, one of the finest sets of Photoshop filters in the business.
I bought this because of you, Ray.
Yep. And you can get all kinds of wonderful artistic effects, as well as one of the filters that's really getting a lot of press now is denoise. Luminous Landscape just did a write-up about it and said it's the best noise-removing filter on the market. They compared it to a whole bunch of other...
Now, Lightroom 3 now has a very good denoiser, I thought. Have you compared it to the new Lightroom 3?
Well, at any rate, I don't know whether they compared it to it, but they compared it to a lot of other plugins and said denoise is one of the finest. But you can get... There's several things I really like about this company. The first thing that I like about the company is you can download all of these filters absolutely free and use them for 30 days with no restrictions whatsoever. You can download them and use them on real work. You can publish what you get. There's no watermarks, nothing.
Yep.
You get the full meal deal, and for 30 days they work just like they will when you pay the license fee. And you can buy the whole set for $179, and that saves you a fair bit of money over buying the individual filters. But the artistic looks you get with them are just fantastic. Now, they also have a set of video filters, which I haven't tried. Alex, have you looked at this outfit?
I have seen them. I actually haven't gotten around to requesting a... Are they 30 days as well for the video?
Yes.
I'll have to test them. I haven't tested them.
Ray did it. Ray took one of my pictures from China and ran them through one of the Topaz filters.
And it turned out well.
Oh, it's incredible. Not video, stills, but just incredible.
No, I should definitely check it out. I have to admit I haven't gotten to it yet.
I introduced this to the Western Photographic Circle, which is a printmaking group that I belong to, and the whole bunch has gone nuts over these.
Have they gone 64-bit with these?
Yes.
They have. Oh, good.
They are 64-bit now. That was very recently in the last 2 weeks.
Because that was one issue. I had to restart Photoshop to...
Right, yeah, you had to set it to open in 32-bit,
right.
But that's gone now. If you download the current set of filters, they're 64-bit on the Mac.
Well, I think that one of the reasons that I haven't used it much for the video, I was trying to figure out why I haven't opened these. And in the video side of things, I just it's a little bit more focused than what they have for the still side, and so it's just been stuff that I haven't needed.
Right,
I think that was the issue. But this stuff looks amazing.
Go! Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the clean filter, the simplify filter.
Go!
Focus.
We like to call him Leo Squirrel. Lindsay.
Looks like the Netherlands are going all the way.
Oh my!
There's a big pile of orange people on the field right now. Right. Go ahead, please continue.
Well, all I can say is I have really enjoyed these filters, and the people that I've shown them to, without exception, everybody's run out and got them, and they're doing really wonderful work. like I say, the simplify filter, the clean filter. If you shoot fashion or glamour, the clean does things to women's skin that the women love it. Let's put it that way.
The ladies love Topaz.
The ladies love it. So it's fantastic. So
I have to. I buy routinely when I upgraded to the latest Photoshop, and I make sure that I have the Topaz filters and the Nik filters.
Yeah,
both of those.
Those are amazing.
If you've got those, you're done. And I have to say, I think they work with Lightroom. I know Nik does. I think the Topaz filters work with Lightroom as well.
I believe so.
Yeah. And I've been using Lightroom 3. I mentioned it last week. I just really am liking that. That's a great combination. Lightroom 3, Photoshop.
I have played with the Nik stuff in it. The Nik software.
The
Nik
Nik filters and the Topaz filters, and you're done.
Yeah.
There's nothing. You could take any crappy photo and make it look good. God knows
I don't know about that. But.
Thank you, Ray. Good recommendation. Topaz Labs, topazlabs.com. And last but not least, Mr. Andy Ihnatko.
Actually, my pick of the week is an old pick of the week, made more sexy and more awesome by a price drop. Another shoe has dropped as a result of the iPad's release. The price of the Amazon Kindle ebook reader is now down to $189. Which I think makes it into a different sort of beast because there are a great many people that were not willing to spend close to $300 on an ebook reader. None of those people would have been willing to spend $500 on an iPad. Certainly not $630 for an iPad with 3G connectivity. That's even before you throw in the $30 a month service contract. But when you talk about having a really good compact ebook reader for $189 that comes with free 3G service for the life of the product, you start off with a really good book reader that has access to the largest commercial book library available anywhere. If you're looking for an ebook, chances, if it's not available on the Kindle store, chances are it's not available as a copyrighted book for purchase, and your search kind of ends there. The iBook store is great. I think it's a better piece of software as a book reader, but the selection just isn't there. Also, the Kindle is a lot more compact than the iPad. You can definitely stick that in the back pocket very, very easily, and the screen is just a simple e-ink display, so it'll be readable in any amount of sunlight, and the battery runs exactly forever. I'm sorry, 8 seconds short of forever. So you do have to recharge it once every 32 years or thereabouts. But one thing that people don't really remember about the Kindle is that if you look into it, it has one page of its menu is what are called experimental features. And one of those features is a mobile web browser. So you can, so it will access something like the mobile edition of Google Reader very, very easily. And you can actually, through 3G, access all your blogs, all your news, everything like that, free for life, completely wirelessly. And there are enough Kindle fans out there that you can get your email on it. There are ways to sort of abuse that 3G connection. Amazon doesn't really care because you're just really just pushing text, so that's next to nothing in terms of data that you're transacting. So when you drop the price to $189, suddenly this is in the realm of credibility for a great number of people for whom the iPad was a total non-starter only because of its price. And so I liked it at $200. I believe the original price was $269. I liked it at $269. At $189, I really, really love it. I'm really interested to see what this does, not just to the Kindle market, but the market for ebooks in general. Because at this price, it's close enough that for Christmas, a lot of people are going to be getting ebook readers for Christmas. And I think that's going to really expand the credibility of electronic publishing in general.
I think you're right.
And it's a very nice, very tidy device. It's not like you see other bargain rate ebook readers that look like it's a homebrew project made out of just parts glued together with spit and baling wire. But this is a very, very true and wonderful product. It does read EPUBs. You can email your own desktop documents to it, and it will convert it for like a dime per document. You can also hook it up via USB and just dump PDFs and stuff onto it. It doesn't handle EPUB, unfortunately. That's really the only downside of the entire device. But again, for $189, it's almost like they're unveiling a whole new product. It's called the Kindle Affordable.
I'm really interested too to see this new DX. I don't want to buy it.
I have the only thing with the DX. I mean, I think that the Kindle makes at $189 makes a lot of sense for a lot of people.
$149 on a couple of days ago.
You buy the company and you let them sell it cheap. At $379 though, I with the DX, I kind of go, really? I mean, are you really going to buy that instead of an iPad? I mean, at that when you get into that price range. I really think that over $250 or $299 at the highest is really, above that is like no man's land. It's like iPad no man's land.
$379 for the DX, but they've got this new higher contrast screen. I'm kind of intrigued by it. It's the future
because
of
it's in color. Oh wait,
it's not color yet. No,
it's not. And it plays video.
No,
every color mixed inside it according to one color,
and it plays games. Oh no, it doesn't do that either.
For reading books, I still think that I'm with Andy a little bit. I think the Kindle is probably a better experience
for $189
for just reading books.
For $189,
it's gotta
absolutely.
Be cheap. It's got to be cheap.
But I'm not going to, once I go to that price, I'm just going to be, I want to do all those other things.
It's too close to an iPad at that point. Yeah.
Above once you get into $200-$300, definitely.
Hey, great show. Thank you guys. Really appreciate it. Andy Ihnatko is at the Chicago Sun-Times. His website, www.cwob.com. He's got his own gang signs, apparently. That's lovely. Thanks for being here, Andy. Thank you, Ray Maxwell, for joining us. We'd love to have you come back on a regular basis. Ray is just a real asset to the Twit network. We have a bunch of Ray's show. Maxwell's House is no longer being produced. We canceled it, I'm sorry to say. But Ray will make regular appearances on all of our other shows because his expertise is so valued here at the Twit network. So it's great to talk to you again, Ray. Thanks for being here. And Alex Lindsay is the man at the Pixel Corps, pixelcorps.com, for that great guild of multimedia artists you can join to learn and work together. Pixelcorps.tv for their podcasts.
A lot of people have been asking us where we're putting the event coverage, and just to remind everyone, Gear Media Tech is running again, and there's lots of stuff, coverage from different events, and we'll be relaunching Inside the Black Box at SIGGRAPH coming up in a couple weeks, so stay tuned for that as well.
That's wonderful. Thank you for being here. We in our newly lit, bright studio. We're still working on the lighting, but it's certainly bright. You can't deny that. Let us know what you think. You can email me at leo@twit.tv to give me your feedback. We do this show every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Pacific time. That's 2 p.m. Eastern time at live.twit.tv, 1800 UTC. But then after the fact, you can, of course, always watch it by going to twit.tv/mbw and subscribing to MacBreak Weekly in all the different ways, iTunes and so forth. In fact, if you go to the iTunes store and look for Twit in the podcast section, you'll see we have about 30 shows on all different topics, and all are available for you, both in audio and in video. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Lots of fun. We'll see you next time. Now you get back to work. Break time is over.